Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. I'm Nick Park, and we are in the middle of a series called The Biblical Game of Thrones. We're looking at the kings of Israel and Judah. Now, Israel, the northern kingdom, by now it's gone. It's finished. They've been carried into captivity by the Assyrians. But the southern kingdom of Judah, with its capital city in Jerusalem and with the kings from the line of David, still continues. And the last one of their kings we looked at was King Ahaz, who was a real nasty so-and-so. He was probably the worst of the kings of Judah up to that point. But then after him came a really good king, Hezekiah, who, with perhaps the exception of David and Solomon, Hezekiah was the best king that the nation of Judah had ever had. The Bible says that he was more zealous for God than his predecessors. And, he undid the damage that Ahaz had done. He opened up the temple that had been locked up and people had been denied access to it. He restored the priesthood. He restored the Passover as a national holiday. He got rid of idols and was unsparing in getting rid of idols. He even got rid of something called the Nehushtan, which was the brass serpent. Remember, Moses had made a brass serpent, and when the people were bit by the snakes, God told Moses to make this brass serpent and put it up on a pole, and the people would, when they looked at it in faith, trusting God for the healing, they would be healed of the ill effects of the snake bites that would otherwise have killed them. And that, of course, became a symbol of Jesus. Jesus said, as the serpent was lifted up in the wilderness, so I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. And yet, by Hezekiah's day, people had even started worshipping this Nehushtan. And even though it had such a great place in the history of Israel, Hezekiah destroyed it rather than allowing an idol to remain in the land. And the Bible says that God prospered him because he sought the Lord and tried to obey the Lord in everything he did. Now, the Assyrians came against Judah, the same Assyrians that had already destroyed the northern kingdom and its capital of Samaria, and they probably thought they could do the same with Jerusalem, but they didn't. Hezekiah called on the prophet Isaiah for help, and Isaiah gave him a word that the Lord would deliver Jerusalem, and Hezekiah prayed, and the Lord during the night did an incredible miracle, and 185,000 of the Assyrian troops died during the night, killed by the Lord to deliver his people from their murderous attack. Now, eventually Hezekiah got sick, and the prophet Isaiah said to him, "You're going to die of this sickness." Hezekiah pleaded to God, and God healed his sickness. God gave him a great miracle and a miraculous sign to show him that this healing was from the Lord. And then he had some visitors came from Babylon. And these Babylonians, they came to congratulate him on his miraculous healing, and he showed them everything that was in his palace and his temple. And Isaiah said to him, "You've done a really foolish thing, because these same Babylonians will eventually come back, and they're going to destroy this place. They're going to destroy the temple. They're going to carry away your descendants into slavery and everything else." And Hezekiah said something really stupid. Because this was not going to happen in his own generation, but would happen to a future generation, he said, well, it's a good word because it won't happen in my generation. A foolish thing to say, because we should be seeking to build up and advance the next generation. Yet despite that blot on his copybook, as it were, Hezekiah is still remembered as one of the greatest of the kings of Judah. And that greatly encourages me, because you don't have to be perfect to be used by God. You can still have your flaws. You can still get it wrong sometimes. You can still sometimes need a rebuke, a word of rebuke. But if you will set your heart to serve the Lord with a sincere heart and to follow his ways and to put him first, I want to tell you that even with your mistakes, even with your weaknesses, God can still do something wonderful and incredible with your life. And that's really what Hezekiah stands for. He was a great king, not a perfect king, but God uses imperfect people to fulfill his perfect will. And for that reason, Hezekiah should be an encouragement to all of us. Join us again next time for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.